the whole meeting to order. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please call the roll.
Alderman Edwards. Alderman Simpson.
Here.
Alderman Turner. Alderman Lesko.
Here.
Alderman CAHNMAN.
Here.
Alderman Jobe. Alderman McMenamin.
Here.
Alderman THEILEN.
Here.
Alderman Dove.
Here.
Alderman Griffin.
Okay, I need a motion for the approval of the September 24th committee meeting minutes.
Move approval.
You have a second?
Second.
Okay. Any discussion on those minutes? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Treasurer's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The corporate fund monthly cash report for September, we had a beginning balance of $7,673,262. Receipts for the month totaled $15,671,789. Disbursements for the month of September totaled $7,709,912. So our ending cash balance at the end of September in the corporate fund totaled $15,635,139.
Any questions for the treasurer at all? No? Move to approve. Motion to approve. We have a second?
Second.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thanks. Let the record show that Alderman Turner and Alderman Jobe have joined us. Let's see, Office of Budget and Management Contract Report. Is there any questions on that at all? Everybody had a chance to look at it?
I have.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mr. Alderman.
Thank you, Alderman Simpson. Mr. Chair, I believe we've got 28 contracts on this report, and I've got questions on 6 of them. 3 pertain to economic development and 3 pertain to city water, light, and power. So if Mr. Farmer's here, I'll start with economic development. The first economic development contract is the first one listed on our sheet. The contract was dated September 30. It's NV 14-68C, having to do with Mercy Communities.
Correct.
On that one, I'm just asking for information. This has to do with some type of information reporting on homelessness in Springfield. There's software and different kinds of reports that are produced. Is that correct?
That is 100% correct.
Could you provide some additional information about what this is a $30,000 additional spending for a total of $45,000 for additional 2 years of the administration of the Homeless Management Information System. Could you provide council members some type of additional information about what this information produces?
Sure.
Thank you. The next item, also an economic development contract, is dated September 6, 2013. It's a $90,000 funding for the Greater Springfield Chamber of Commerce. Is this a continuation of what we've always done?
That's correct.
Okay. And the amount is comparable to what we've spent in the past?
Actually, lower than what we spent in the past. At one time, I believe this contract was up to $150,000. It's been shaved back over the last several years to $90,000. And we've spent $45,000 of that amount. That was the first installment, I believe, of the 2 installments.
And do you know the source of these monies?
Yes, this is corporate fund.
Okay. And these are budgeted monies?
That's correct.
Okay. And the third economic development contract it's on the third page of what the aldermen have. It's contract dated September 30, 2013, and its number is NB 14-122C. It's a contract with Michael Dunbar redevelopment agreement to provide historical facade and restoration and architectural assistance for $49,000, Enos Park TIF Fund.
Yes.
Has Mr. Dunbar provided these services in the past to Enos Park TIF?
Has he provided any services?
That's correct.
This is for his property that he purchased,
That's correct,
right?
yeah, it's for his property, yeah. This is a facade purchase and restoration for the studio that he's building there across from the restaurant.
there.
And the sculpture park.
Yeah. But it's for the building he purchased, correct?
He's purchased the
He's purchased
property,
that.
and he's rehabilitating the building for his sculpturing studio.
Okay, thank you, Alderman Joe. With that information, I understand. I now am familiar with the project that's been written about in the newspaper, so thanks a lot.
You're welcome.
That's it. Thanks a lot, Director Farmer. And I've got 3 contracts having to do with City Water, Light, and Power. The first one is dated September 9th, 2013, and it's a lobbying contract with Government Consulting Solutions, Inc. And I had quite a conversation. This is MV 14-10-8U on the second page of what the alderman had. And I had a helpful conversation, extensive conversation with Attorney Christine Zima of City Water, Light, and Power today, which explained a lot of what's going on here. I just want to note to the council members that this particular contract had it's for lobbying, and I've got a ordinance sitting in committee that reduces the threshold for city council approval for legal services contracts from currently the threshold is $25,000, and it would reduce it down to $5,000. And at a future committee of the whole, I may bring that ordinance up for review, and at that time also have that ordinance cover lobbying contracts, so that any lobbying contracts for $5,000 or more would also be subject to city council approval. So that's just a point of note on that particular contract. The second item is the second contract about which I have a question is dated September 9, 2013. It's MB 14-111U. It's on the second page of what the aldermen have. It's in the middle there. It's City Water, Light, and Power Commercial Office. This is a bid for tension envelopes, $48,569,000. The question there is, looks like the name of the contractor is Tension Envelope. And the question is that a local bidder or out of the area bidder, or did they not give the correct name of the contractor or the vendor? The purchase of outgoing and return envelopes for use by City Water, Light, and Power. $48,569 was a low bid.
Yeah, the low bidder is Tension Envelope Corporation. They were the only bidder.
Okay. And are they local or out of the city?
They're outside.
Just surprised we got so many local, supply stores. I'm surprised we didn't get a bid from a local.
That I don't know.
Okay.
I mean, it has our logo printed on it. In that volume, I don't know if people can't compete. I'm not sure, but it was put out for bid, so.
Okay, and thank you. And the third contract pertaining to City Water, Light, and Power it's on the category called Sealed Competitive Bids. It was a September 6, 2013 contract. It's on the fourth page of what the aldermen have, and this was for battery specialists and golf cars for $76,650. That we had some controversy 2 years ago when we had the rate increase proposal before us at that time, and that was simultaneous with some golf carts being purchased. So what's going on here? Are these additional golf carts? Are they replacement golf carts? Could you explain what's happening?
Well, first of all, I'm not going to use the term golf cart. They're electric vehicles. There's nowhere to put golf clubs on these things. They have a dump bed, and they're enclosed. They're electric vehicles. Instead of buying gas-powered cars or trucks, all of our work is on site. The employees can load these up with equipment, drive them into a storeroom, drive them into the plant near their equipment, which before we would have to leave a gas-powered vehicle outside the power plant. So these are smaller, and they're electric, so they get service instead of having to have the maintenance of a gas engine and the cost of refueling. And all of our work's pretty much on site. So this does not have the opportunity for people to leave the premises when they take one of these. So it's a much more efficient way to transport tools, men, machinery around. Like I said, Dahlman 4 is built on the ground level. They can drive it straight in. There's access points inside of the first, Dahlman 1, 2, and 3, and they can drive equipment straight in. They can drive it into their shops. It's a more efficient equipment than buying gas-powered cars.
Okay, I understand it. I meant no offense by calling it a golf cart, but I'm just
Well,
using...
that was the controversy.
Yeah,
People
well-
were calling them golf carts. They're electric vehicles used for a work purpose.
The information we received as aldermen, I don't know who put together this OBM contract report, but the terminology that's used on the printed material that the aldermen received, they use the term golf carts. So
That's the name of the vendor.
Here's what it is.
That's the
Okay.
vendor.
UTV electric vehicles.
Okay, so that the vendor's name is Battery Specialist in Golf Cars.
Yeah,
So,
they're the same chassis, they're electric batteries, I mean, that's what they use, so they're made by the same manufacturers that make golf carts, but these are not golf carts.
Okay,
They're
how
not-
many-
They're not what you're gonna see rolling around the state fair, these are, what are designed specifically for work locations. They're similar to what people use on farms and for work vehicles, except these are not gas powered, they're electric.
Very similar to a gator.
Yes.
okay, how many did we purchase?
On this one, I will look, 7, there were 7 purchased,
And are these all intended for the Dahlman power plant area?
yes.
Okay, and how many do we have in existence prior to this purchase?
I believe we have, right now, 6 of them in operation at the plant. And again, these are for the crews to be able to drive them. We're adding in some other departments. Our major construction group is being able to do that, to monitor sites, our operation group, so they can drive around the different areas. And they're basically assigned to the different work areas there's a couple assigned to the electrical shops, assigned to the machinist shop, assigned to the fireman, oilers, boiler, fuel crews. Unit 4 staff have one. So it's pretty much, all these are assigned to our craft personnel.
Okay, thank you very much, Director.
Alderman Simpson.
Thank you. This is human resource. And Mayor, I don't know, you may want to answer this question too. Contract NB 14-114C, Dr. Dietrich, fluorescent psychological services. Is this the individual that does the psychological testing for
It
police
is.
and fire? And this is, how long has he been under contract?
Since 2005.
Is there ever been any consideration to the length of time an individual stays in that position, or is that you just can't find anybody else?
This is a very specialized field, and he carries a very distinct credential specifically for public safety testing. And he was highly recommended during the previous administration by several large agencies, including the Illinois State Police, the Missouri Patrol, the City of St. Louis.
So he does all of their testing also?
Yes, ma'am.
Psychological testing?
Yes.
And there's nobody else that can do it? So he's been in this position 8 years? And so he'll be in the position, what, until he decides he doesn't want to do it anymore?
Well, we have the contract fairly open-ended. Either party can terminate it at any time with a 30-day notice. This is one where previously a dollar amount cap had been set, and it actually took that long to reach that dollar cap. So that's why it's up now, is because the money, the $50,000 that was set, has been spent since '05.
Okay, thank you.
Alderman Tylen.
Just a quick question for Director Mahoney. I noticed there's NB 14115C. It's for Public Works, the Geographic Information Services, Inc., for support on demand. And previously, when you were up here instead of Alderman Jobe, you probably remember I kind of gave your predecessor a hard time on some of this GIS stuff. He had 2 people who were contractors with the city who were performing these duties, plus he was having the contracts on the outside, and I felt that was overkill. Do we still have 2 contractors, or we should have, if I remember correctly, 2 or 3 full-time employees, and then we had the 2 contractors?
We have well, now with our sewer division, John, but we have like 3 or 4 people that are pretty good at GIS, but I wouldn't say they're necessarily experts, but are John Miller, our computer tech, is probably our GIS guy. We have somebody, Abby Walden, actually has GIS experience. What this is for our move towards the Granite software in the sewer division, and also the move towards CityWorks and our upgrade, which we budgeted for. So that is for them to come in
Yeah,
and help us.
and
in
this
that
dollar
process.
amount is very, very reasonable depending on how many hours they're giving you of support. I just wanted to make sure that we didn't still have 2 contractors on site as well as going for this outside.
We do not, nor do we have the expertise to manage what we're trying to do.
Okay, thank you. This looks like it was the right decision. Thank you.
Alderman Cameron.
Director Mahoney, I don't know if this would be for you or someone else, but on that question on the batteries that Alderman McMenamin was talking about, somebody asked me the other day about the segways. We used to see police officers riding around on segways, and then, as I recall, there was a battery, some problem with the batteries. Does anyone know? I don't know. You may not be the right person to address this to, but does anyone here?
I'm definitely not the right person to ask.
Yeah, battery. Right, maybe the chief. What happened with these? Was there a battery problem with the segways? Pardon?
They had to replace them.
Oh, or do we still use them, or what?
Hey, Sam, go ahead.
Yeah, there was a battery problem last year, but they've been repaired, and we've been using them basically mainly for different festivals and stuff downtown when manning allows, but as to put them out on patrol right now, it's just not beneficial to us with our manning issues currently. We don't have the manpower to put them down there.
Okay, I guess that's kind of off the subject, but I do have some questions that are on the subject, if I may, Mr. Chairman. Just for Director Farmer, on this Mercy Communities contract that Alderman McMenamin was asking about, I noticed in the newspaper, in the front page of the State Journal Register today, it talked about the continuum of care for Springfield, Sangamon County, providing data on the number of homeless people. Is that something that was obtained through this?
It's one of the mechanisms, yes.
So they're the actually, Mercy was actually the entity that through this management information system that gets that data on the number of homeless?
That's correct.
Okay. All right, and then you're going to provide us with additional information, like you said. So, all right, and then there was one other, on this, what is this contract with the Greater Springfield Chamber of Commerce what are they going to do for this $90,000? It says to retain jobs and attract, do you know what they're specifically going to do to?
I can supply you with the contract that details the program of work that the Chamber and their Q5 partnership will provide. But among those things, they partner with us on things, for example, last week, like our trip to the International Council of Shopping Centers. They provide...
International what?
Council of Shopping Centers.
Oh, okay, the one that was up in Chicago?
Yes.
Yeah.
And in addition, they conduct retention and expansion visits throughout Sangamon County. Again, it's a 3-page contract that we have. Again, I'm fairly certain you've seen it before, Alderman. It's the one that's been in place for approximately 30 years with the Chamber. And with certain variations, it's, it details the retention expansion program, the business attraction program, and the other agreed-upon items that they perform for us, data collection and so on. They do certain documents for the city. And,
well, yeah, I recall, I remember in prior budgets, this was an item that would come before us at budget time to appropriate X amount to the Chamber of Commerce.
That's correct. That's the amount that we budget for our partnership with the Chamber and the Q5.
Was this specifically budgeted for the Chamber in our budget?
Specifically for the Q5 partnership, that's correct.
All right, that's all I have. I had one for Mr. Hobby. This contract, this lobbying contract, is that solely for the purpose of trying to get grants from the state to help us pay for pollution control equipment? Or is there other purposes to this contract?
No, that's what it's for. We've used this outfit once before and received $5 million. Basically, there's money out there that's not specifically allocated to us, and they're working with other utilities that are utilizing Illinois coal, utilizing Illinois contractors, and they're trying to get this, and we're trying to be part of that package where there's some legislation trying to be developed that would allow us to access some of that money for, which is, trying to act in the interest of our customers and reduce operating expenses by, in the interest of the state of Illinois, they're our largest customer too, so trying to help us out, helps out the state directly.
When we got that $5 million, when Government Consulting Solutions, Inc. helped us get that $5 million grant, how much did we pay them at that time?
$25,000, and then we stopped the contract, and we have not had one since this situation has arisen. So we don't have ongoing ones, we have specific situations, and we go after those.
I'd say that's a pretty good return on our money. Thank you, Mr. Hoppy.
Any other questions? Seeing none. Next item of business is ordinance tabled and remaining in committee. We have 2011-104, 2012-123, 2012-226, 2012-376, 2013-128, 2013-174, 2013-193, 2013-250, 2013-260, 2013-266, 2013-296.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
I'd like to bring 2013-370 and 2013-371 out, please.
All right. Okay, so those are what's on, are currently in committee. Is there anything else? Anybody else want to pull anything out?
You want to put them on the consent agenda?
Yeah, consent, please.
Consent for both of them? Yeah, we had
You just want to put them in.
You just want to put them in
committee
for consideration right now.
Sure. And we'll just take them in order.
Yeah. Okay. So ordinances for committee consideration, the clerk would like to start with, I guess, 213-370.
2013-370 is an ordinance annexing to the City of Springfield certain real property owned by Max Convenience Stores, LLC, and located at 2120 North Dirksen Parkway.
Move for consent.
Second.
Any discussion?
Discussion. I had a conversation with Todd Oliver, and Todd's here. Maybe he can correct if I got this wrong, but I think this is a really good situation we have here with this gasoline store that was out in the county. It's now coming into the city. Is that one of the ordinances we're talking about right now? Yeah. And so that will increase our revenue, which is a good thing. And I understand that the reason we're able to bring them into the city is because somehow they were receiving water outside the city, and we were able to leverage that somehow so that they become annexed to the city. And all that sales tax revenue from gasoline sales will now become part of the city revenue. So that's a good thing. Mike, getting that correct, Mr. Oliver? Thank you.
Any other comments? No. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
2013-371 is an ordinance to increase the number of Class B liquor licenses by one for Max Convenience Stores doing business as Circle K 1303, located at 2120 North Dirksen Parkway.
Move for consent.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
2013-376 is an ordinance amending Chapter 32, Section 32.06 of the 1988 City of Springfield Code of Ordinances as amended pertaining to the powers and duties of the mayor regarding executive orders.
Move for debate.
Second.
Any discussion?
Please.
Yes, all we're doing here is codifying or requiring the mayor to file with the city clerk executive orders he issued. I was surprised when I found out that wasn't already required. It's at the state level, whenever the governor files or issues an executive orders, the state law requires that he file it with, or she file it with the Secretary of State. The president files executive orders, or they're reported at least in the Federal Register. So the reason I asked to put it on the debate is there is an amendment I'm working on that isn't ready yet. So and I'll probably should expect to have it ready at the council meeting.
Can you try to make sure everybody gets it before that?
Yeah,
I will
do that. Yeah.
Okay. Alderman Tylen?
Yes, I have a question for Corporation Counsel. How do the other cities handle this?
I have no idea. What other cities are you talking
Well,
about?
in general, since we generally try to be similar to what the other cities do with how they respond to certain things. I would be curious to find out how Peoria, Decatur, Bloomington, Champaign, you know, the sane cities, we're not going to go Chicago, that's kind of crazy. But
Okay, I can check that out.
check out and see how they handle it,
Okay.
and just see if this is something that we really need to be pursuing.
Alderman
I
McMenamin.
think, Mr. Chair, to be honest, I don't care what Peoria's doing, or Chicago, or Ottawa, or Sterling. I think this is good government. This is what we need to do. We need to know if there's an executive order out there, what's the harm in letting the public know what's going on? That just seems to be inherently sensible to most of us. And I'd like to point out that this goes back to those executive orders that were issued, for example, giving command staff pay spikes. I saw recently that pay spike that Police Chief Clement issued, or he asked Mayor Davlin to sign. It was labeled at the very top, confidential. Now, normally confidential means we don't want anyone to see this. And that's precisely the kind of executive order you want everybody to see, because it affects pay for current command staff, and it eventually is highly expensive on our police pension funds. So I commend Alderman CAHNMAN for introducing this ordinance. I think it's about time, and it will lead to better government, and thanks for doing so. Sure.
Anybody else?
I
Go ahead.
think, if I'm mistaken, I think Mayor Houston supports this as well. He was out in the public, I think, on a radio interview a few weeks ago, so I don't think this will be an issue with the administration by any means, and I commend Alderman CAHNMAN for bringing it forward. So let's not give any misconceptions out there that the administration's not interested in doing this. I don't think we want the public thinking that. I think it's a good public policy step, and I'll be supporting it.
Alderman CAHNMAN.
Thank you. Well, I agree with Alderman THEILEN, Alderman McMenamin, and Alderman Joe. I know that may sound unusual, but because I think it is a good idea that we look at other cities, including the city of Chicago, what they do, just to see what the process or the procedure that they use. I think, regardless of what they do, I do agree with Alderman McMenamin that we ought to do this, but the process of how we do it might change based on how, we see how other cities do it. So I would appreciate corporation councils, taking a look at seeing what some of those, how the procedure that some of the other cities use.
Alderman Tyler.
And Alderman CAHNMAN actually may have used different words than I would have, but he said what I was intending to say, that it's more, my statement was more along the lines of taking a look at what they're doing before we jump into this, because if there's another way out there that all of them are handling it other than this, we need to consider those options. I'm not saying that these executive orders shouldn't see light of day. I'm just trying to say that maybe we should see what other people are doing first. Rather than reinventing the wheel, maybe we can just go buy some rims.
Any other debate? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
2013-377 is an ordinance authorizing payment to Troy Coakley, a City of Springfield police officer, to settle workers' compensation claim for case number 13-WC-012775.
Move to consent.
Second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. Any debate? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
2013-378 is an ordinance authorizing a supplemental appropriation in the amount of $8,575 for the Springfield Fire Department.
Move to debate.
We have a second?
Second.
For
Debate.
Debate. Okay, any discussion?
I learned from Chief Fuston tonight that this apparently is a reimbursement of the fire insurance fund back to the city of Springfield for travel that was taken by 6 various uniformed and non-uniformed, including staff personnel, from the fire department to attend a conference in Colorado. And when we budget for travel. So it looks like either we're deciding to use the fire insurance fund to expand what we budgeted for travel, or we're staying within our limits but reimbursing back the fire budget. But regardless, sending 6, and I understand you're on, the personnel were on duty status, and it was I believe a 4-day conference out in Colorado.
Correct.
We're all cutting back. We're all trying to live within our budgets. And I guess that purpose was to learn about how to put together a wellness and fitness program for our fire department here in
as well as many other safety-related subject matters.
It just seems to me we could have found some kind of training of the same equivalent nature right here within the state of Illinois. And this gets under, I think, our constituent skins when we see 6 personnel going out for 4 days to Colorado. So that's my comment on it.
Any other debate?
I have a question.
Alderman
Thank you. Chief, so this was originally paid for by the Foreign Fire Insurance Board, is that correct?
No, originally it was paid for out of the fire department budget. The registration, the travel expenses, the per diem, and any overtime or backfill that was created by the member's absence was reimbursed to the city through the Foreign Fire Insurance Fund.
So this money is going, I'm trying to figure out what's going on here. We're appropriating $8,575 from just general funds to the fire department?
No, the $8,575 was paid for by the fire department budget out of various object lines like our registration, travel expenses, per diem, and our overtime. The trip was originally budgeted to be around $15,000. We were fortunate that the trip was scheduled at the identical time that our new members came on shift. So we had an influx of 15 new members, so our overtime at that time plummeted. So we didn't incur near the overtime expense that we originally thought that we might. So the cost of the entire trip for all 6 members was $8,575, of which the Foreign Fire Insurance Board is going to reimburse the fire department fund, or the fire department budget.
Okay, this trip, we already paid, the city funds have already been paid out this $8,575?
That's correct, sir.
And now I'm just trying to figure out what's going on here. How does
the Foreign Fire Board saw that this was such a valuable and needed symposium to send our members to. They opted to fund the entire trip. Otherwise, we would have not been able to afford to send anybody.
So are we paying the Foreign Fire Insurance Board from city funds? Or are we paying them the $8,000?
No, sir. The Foreign Fire Insurance Fund is paying back the corporate fund, fire department.
Okay, all right. So the Foreign Fire. So what you're saying is the Foreign Fire Insurance Fund is going to put $8,575 back into our city budget to reimburse us for what we paid for this trip.
That is correct.
Okay. All right. So basically, this trip, no tax dollars would be then paying for
no Springfield tax dollars at all, sir.
Okay.
Thank you. Hold on a second. You were on duty status during that trip, is that correct?
Yes.
So city dollars were being paid for payroll in Colorado?
I guess if you want to look at it that way, sir, yes, you could.
Okay.
But no overtime accrued, correct, during that?
I think one of the union guys who went, one of his shifts was covered for an overtime slot, and that was also reimbursed by the Foreign Fire Insurance Board.
So no public tax dollars
That's
used
correct
for this trip.
So if I could, Chairman,
Go ahead.
just clarify one thing. So the $8,575 is just for the cost of the trip. The firefighters that went were paid their regular salary while they were out there.
That is correct.
Okay, and that's not part of this $8,575?
No, sir.
Okay.
I thought you
All
said
right, thanks.
I thought you just said it was.
Any overtime created. Any overtime created that was created by the absence of one of the members who was gone.
The overtime, not the salary.
That's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
And we're talking about the overtime of the person who worked to cover him while he was gone?
That is correct.
Because otherwise, we'd be looking at different line items here for salary and whatnot. We're looking at 2,600 lines and a 1,280 line, which are, like you said, travel, reimbursement, per diem. So
that is
yeah.
correct.
Thank you.
Do you know how much of this 8,575 was for overtime?
I don't have that breakdown in front of me, sir, but I'll be happy to get it to you.
But it was a very small
I think it
amount.
might have been one shift out of the 4 days that we were gone.
Thank you.
I will verify that.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
No.
Thank you.
2013-379 is an ordinance declaring retired Springfield Police Department canines known as Tango and Axel as surplus properties and authorizing execution of agreements for the purchase of said canines with Officer Jeff Langinger and Steve Turman, a former canine officer.
Move for consent.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
2013-380 is an ordinance authorizing acceptance and execution of a grant from the Illinois Department of Transportation in the amount of $23,851.52 for sustained traffic enforcement program and authorizing a supplemental appropriation in the amount of $10,222 for FY14 for the Springfield Police Department.
Move to consent.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
2013-381 is an ordinance to increase the number of Class C1 liquor licenses by one for Kroger Limited Partnership doing business as Ruler Number 258 located at 2711 East Sangamon Avenue.
Move for consent.
Second.
Any discussion?
Is this a grocery store?
Yes.
Brand new grocery store.
Oh, okay.
Fit.
Any public discussion? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
2013-382 is an ordinance authorizing a decrease in the number of Class B1 liquor licenses by one and to increase the number of Class D liquor licenses by one for Bacardi Italian Imports doing business as Bacardi Italian Imports, 3132 Cockrell Lane.
Move to consent.
You have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
2013-383 is an ordinance to increase the number of Class N liquor licenses by one for Bacardi's Italian Imports doing business as Bacardi's Italian Imports, 3132 Cockrell Lane.
Have a motion?
What's an N liquor license?
That's where I was going to go, but I think we need to put
Move to consent.
first.
Second.
Okay, motion and a second.
A Class N license shall entitle restaurant licensee to sell alcohol liquor at retail for consumption on the premises and will also allow the sale of beer and wine only in the original package for consumption off premises.
Now,
Judge, remember that
No, now that's, he
N is tactical.
he gave you wrong information. I pulled the code.
yeah, it's right here.
But let me,
I have the code.
And that is where I was going with my questions. If we could bring
Why
Todd
there's
Oliver
two?
up.
Yeah, Todd, you want to explain that?
isn't this the?
Why there's?
I'm not sure. That's, we don't get a lot of Class Ns. That's why I want to get Todd up here.
Yes.
Basically, can you explain Class N and can you give us an example of somebody in town who has one?
Sure. The Class N license is basically set up for, and the city council had voted on creating the Class N license. It gives a restaurant that may have a special product, either like if they sell growlers or if they sell house wine, something like that, that they would not be able to obtain somewhere else, the opportunity to sell it as a packaged good. Currently in Springfield right now, we have 6 locations that have the DN license. The D is the restaurant license, the N is the package for beer and wine. Those businesses that we have are Bella Milano's, Ingrain Brewery, which we just voted on, Mariah's, Obed and Isaac's, and Olive Garden all have that license. Also, we have an EN license out there, which is a restaurant with beer and wine only that has package. And we have one of those currently in the city, and that goes to Porter and Hazel, who has a microbrew growler beer that you can buy a growler in their business and take home with you. So that's the reason for this. And if anybody's familiar with this location that we're talking about now, they have a packaged liquor license now, which is a B1. And what they're doing is they're enlarging their their business to allow seating for the restaurant. So you'll be able to get an order inside and warm it up, sit down at the table and eat it. And what they wanted to do is have like a glass of wine with their Italian food. They also have a very nice selection of wines in the back, and they wanted to be able to keep that as a packaged product to be able to have people coming into their little convenience store, restaurant type business and buy a packet or buy a bottle of wine to take home. So that's what the N does. So they end up purchasing 2 licenses is what they do, the D and the N.
Now, this means, this does not allow for a package that is no longer sealed to leave the premises, or does this allow if someone were to say buy a bottle of wine, they drink half the bottle, the server reseals it, are they then able to leave the premises with it?
I believe the State Liquor Control Commission did pass a ruling that does allow, if you're sitting at a table with a dinner and you have a bottle of wine, it would allow, there's a special bag you get, it's a one-time sealed bag, and you would be able to seal that bottle in that one-time bag.
I just wanted to make sure that that was the understanding, that they had to have it resealed by the company before they could leave with it.
Right, correct, correct.
Okay.
Any other discussion?
Yeah, so if I could just clarify, so they sell packaged liquor that they buy from some other, distributor, and they make their own alcohol, wine?
Not at this location, like an Obed and Isaac's, and then they have a microbrewery inside the business where they do sell the growler, so that's their...
Right, that's Obed and Isaac.
Right.
This place, Bocardi's, are they also making some of their...
No, they're not making anything, they just want to be able to have a product, their bottled wines, they have a selection of bottled wines there that you could go in and you could buy a bottle of wine to take home with a dinner or salad or whatever you want to do.
Basically, the sum and substance of these 2 licenses is that you can drink alcohol while you're sitting there on the premises, or you could buy a package to take with you to go pack.
Correct.
Go home.
Yeah, if you wanted a glass of wine, you could have a glass of wine with your dinner or whatever while you're sitting there at lunch.
Okay, thanks.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
2013-384 is an ordinance to decrease the number of Class AA liquor licenses by 1 for Rita A. Schnell, doing business as Bob and Rita's Corner, located at 933 North Grand Avenue West.
With consent.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
2013-385 is an ordinance approving and authorizing execution of an agreement with Noondorfer Incorporated in an amount not to exceed $450,725.50 for Unit 33 precipitator upgrade project.
Move to consent.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
2013-386 is an ordinance approving and authorizing execution of 4 lease agreements for a 1-year term for the Administrative Services Division.
With the consent.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
2013-387 is an ordinance approving and authorizing the execution of a telecommunications contract service agreement between the City of Springfield and Springfield Clinic, LLP.
Move with consent.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
2013-388 is an ordinance authorizing execution of contract LL 140738 with Floyd Builders Incorporated for the second floor renovation project at Lincoln Library's main branch.
With consent.
Second.
Any discussion?
Briefly, if the director could come up and just give us a brief overview of where we're at in the project.
Once the contract is approved by council, we'll be meeting with the contractor. We're working on the building permit right now. I believe they dropped that off today, our architect, and I think construction will probably start sometime after the first of the year. Just depends on when the contractor can get the carpeting and the tile and the materials in, and then we'll be starting.
Okay, thank you.
Get it. If I may.
Go ahead, Alderman CAHNMAN.
Thank you. The ordinance says, or the resolution that the amount is not, of this renovation, not to exceed $517,000. And then it says that all funds will be paid by the Lincoln Library Foundation due to a major donation received from the estate of Joseph and Rose DeFreitas. So this is all, none of this is coming from taxpayer dollars?
No, this is all funded through the Joe and Rose DeFreitas donation to the Library Foundation.
So how much was that donation?
It was approximately $650,000 in that neighborhood.
So, and then these funds, the foundation also receives funds from other sources?
Yes, we
too,
do.
correct?
Yes, we do.
All right, well, that's great. Thanks a lot.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
2013-389 is an ordinance accepting the lowest bid and authorizing execution of contract number PW 140852 with Henry Nelton Son Company to purchase ready-mix concrete and related materials for the Office of Public Works in an amount not to exceed $300,000.
Move to consent.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
2013-390 is an ordinance approving the location and sketch map of Isles Park Place subdivision located at the southeast corner of 6th and Ash Streets for the Office of Public Works.
Move to consent.
Second.
Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
2013-391 is an ordinance authorizing the purchase of rock salt from Cargill Incorporated Salt Division under state contract PSD 4017550 in an amount not to exceed $261,950 for the Office of Public Works.
Move for consent. Second.
Any discussion?
Yes.
Go ahead, Alderman Simpson.
Director Mahoney, we had a relatively mild winter last year. Did we have any salt left over?
We do. We have about, taking the rest of the order at the end of the month, so we'll have about 4,000 tons. This is probably the lowest price. I think last year we paid somewhere in the $400,000, around $400,000. That because of the last 2 years, the price has dropped significantly. And we bought a little bit less this year too because we have some supply.
Okay. And there are no storage issues in terms of it? I think I've seen it, some salts melt together, so it'll still be good.
It is. And most of it, we have about 3,000 tons in the salt dome, and then we have a storage space where we're going to take the additional 1,000, and what we'll do is we'll cover it. We don't take all of it at once, so as we need it, if we go through a storm, we'll order some more.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Alderman Tylen.
He answered my question in the process of answering hers.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
2013-392 is an ordinance authorizing the execution of a yard waste collection service agreement with Lake Area Disposal Service Incorporated in the amount of $44,800 for the Southeast Quadrant and Waste Management of Illinois Incorporated in the amount of $53,040 for the Northwest Quadrant and $47,460 for the Northeast Quadrant, for a total collective amount not to exceed $145,300 to furnish services of collection and disposal of yard waste within the city and lands owned by the city for the Office of Public Works.
Move to consent.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. We also have an amendment.
No, it's just some additional information about the contract.
Oh, the amendments, I see, 395, sorry. I got 2 pages of that.
I
Sorry
did
about
have
that.
just one question for Director Mahoney.
Go ahead.
Director, last year you guys started doing the quadrants like this, and you were putting things out on the internet and giving residents a heads up as to when the trucks were coming through. At what time do you expect to have that back up again? I can't tell you how many phone calls I'm already getting from people trying to prepare for the fall pickup.
Well, after council approval, we'll do a press release and kind of announce what the process is. And generally what we do, we ask people to put their the things out every Monday, and we attempt to get them every week. Sometimes, depending how heavy the load is at the beginning, it takes a week and a half before we get through the area. But we ask them every Monday to put their, make sure it's on the street.
Okay, but you do plan on having it on the website again, that, you know, you're planning on being in this area, in this area, in this area, like you did last year?
Well, I don't think we did it, but we may put that information up on the website, but it's every week, it's the same thing. So every Monday, we try to sweep through.
Okay.
If they get put out, they will get picked up, and it's throughout the month of November.
Thank you.
Okay, any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
2013-393 is a resolution supporting the vision for the 2015 Lincoln Funeral Coalition.
Move to consent.
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes.
Alderman Simpson.
Will there be any financial outlay with regard to the commemoration? Do we know?
Well, I think this is just a letter of support.
I understand that that's a letter of support, but I'm saying beyond the letter of support, will we need to come up with any money?
Anybody wish to answer that?
I can just say that I've been in talks with Katie on this particular subject, and at no time has she asked for any monetary assistance from the city of Springfield. I think that her request will come more along the lines of assistance from Public Works with streets and those types of things, maybe from the fire and police departments for manpower, but as far as direct monetary assistance, that has not been any topic of conversation.
Thank you.
Any other discussion, Alderman CAHNMAN?
Yes, I just note that Alderman Edwards is making his influence felt here, even from Ireland, since he's the sponsor of this resolution. I'd ask Madam Clerk if I could be listed as a co-sponsor of this resolution, since it goes through the ward I represent. Thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
2013-394 is an ordinance approving the appointment of David R. Olesniak, Chief Operating Officer for St. John's Hospital to the Mid-Illinois Medical District Commission.
Move to consent.
Second.
Any discussion?
The nominee, Mr. Chair?
Yes.
The nominee is the Chief Operating Officer of St. John's Hospital. Is the nominee here tonight?
No.
Okay. We're fortunate to have a nominee of his standing, achievement, and background on the commission.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you.
2013-395 is an ordinance authorizing execution of agreement between the City of Springfield and to be determined for legal services related to general obligation bond issuance in an amount not to exceed to be determined for the Office of Budget and Management.
Move to consent.
Do we have a second?
Amendment, yes.
Second.
I'll make the second, and then
We have a
we need to
motion.
look at the amendment.
We have an amendment. I'd like to read what the amendment is.
Proposed amendment to Agenda Item 2013-395, an ordinance authorizing execution of an agreement between the City of Springfield and Hart, Southworth, and Witzman for legal services related to general obligation bond issuance in an amount not to exceed $70,000 for the Office of Budget and Management.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion on the amendment?
Yeah, I just have a question. Basically, the amendment is the ordinance, so I know bond counsel being is kind of a specialized area of the law, and I'm wondering if Corporation Counsel could enlighten us as to how this bond counsel was selected, and how do we know that this is a fair or reasonable price? Were other bond counsels checked out?
I think
If you don't mind, I'll take that. My office made the decision.
Pardon me?
My office made the decision on this. Basically, what we did is we looked at we asked for 5 proposals from different councils. 3 of them have done business with the City of Springfield before, including this one. 2 others were recommended by our financial advisor. So we sought proposals from each of the 5. They all came in about the same, pretty close to one another. And in the end, this was the only local firm that had submitted a proposal, and we decided to go with the local firm. They were not quite the lowest, but they were close.
And they've done bond counsel work for the city before?
This particular outfit has done many bond issues for the city before.
And I assume the city...
Dating all the way back to, I believe, like 1989.
And I'd be correct in assuming the city was satisfied with the work product?
If we were not, we would not have them in front of you this evening. Yes, yes, sir.
Thank you.
Alderman Thielen? I just noticed in the paperwork for the amendment, the letter from the company references on the front page an amount of $88,000, but the ordinance...
88 million?
88 million.
Yeah.
But yet in the series, we're looking at 30 million, not to exceed 30 million. Is that...
We're not anticipating doing one large issuance of $88 million. We're looking at doing multiple issues over 2 or 3 years.
Series, okay.
So we figure probably 30 million per year over 3 years, which would coincide about what Public Works expects to expend each year, rather than doing all 90 million or so up front and then sitting on most of that money for a few years.
All right, thank you.
Any other discussion? Seeing none? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Alderman Lesko, if your phone rings again, you owe us $50 each.
It's broken and I can't turn it off.
Okay. Just check.
You may
Is
just wind
there-
up paying that fee then.
Is there any unfinished business to come before the council? Anybody? Go ahead, Alderman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. There's a gentleman here that I'd like to have him step to the podium if you would.
Good. Will you please state your name and your address, just for the record, so we know?
I'm Jerome King, 1901 Hollow Drive, Springfield. I'm a Springfield resident.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mr. King contacted me relative to the discussion that I brought up last week, and I wish you could just take a few minutes to tell your story.
Okay. We had talked, and I was wondering about the hiring process for city jobs and such, and as far as getting called back for an interview. And I'd called back, and then somebody told me that they had messed up the testing or something like that. Somebody's supposed to return the call. I never received a return call, but the positions have been filled. So that's basically it. I was wondering what does it take to get a decent job, clean background and stuff like that. Parents teach you to stay out of trouble and don't do this, don't do that. I've been done all that stuff, and I've applied several times, and nothing has come up. So I'm still trying. I will be applying again. So, just wondering, just going along with what she had heard my mother was talking. So I just want to come out and say that.
If I may, Mr. King, which jobs did you apply for?
I applied for a fireman oiler job for the power plant, and I applied for my pastor, my church told me to apply for a assistant building inspector job. And so I applied for both of those, and no call back, because they got the application, which was fine, but I was wondering what happened, Nobody called me back for an interview or nothing like that.
Thank you.
Could I ask you a question? Did you hear any, I mean, you didn't get called back for an interview, but did you hear anything back from the city saying?
No, Sam, I didn't hear a letter, like I applied for a state job before, they'll send you a letter, regret to inform you we're not going to, use you at this time, good luck or whatever, but I didn't hear nothing.
So nothing even saying, thanks for applying, we didn't select you this time, try again?
No, sir, both of these jobs where I applied for them here this year, since January.
Mr. Howard, are these, excuse me, Mr.
King.
Mr. King, are these online applications, or are these paper applications?
They're paper, I came and put them both in here at the building, paper applications, sure did.
Okay. I believe our HR director wishes to respond.
Well,
do you have
just a moment.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr. King. And this gentleman is not by himself. I mean, there are a whole host of individuals who could have been in the gallery and spoke to this issue. Mayor Houston, last week I brought up the issue of, based on the staffing report, that there are 91.41% Caucasian employees and only 7.9% African American, well, the total. If you add the 0.54% Hispanics and the 0.20%, it's still just over 8% minority employees in the city, which is absolutely unacceptable. You talked about a diversity plan, but these figures don't show any real diversity in the city. There was plenty of discussion last week, also, and the numbers too, with regard to internally, in terms of managers and supervisors within the city. There are 8 minorities who hold supervisory positions in the city. Again, unacceptable. And again, you say you have a diversity plan. Your human resource director talks about all of the what you can't do, and I don't understand why these figures are what they are, how you can still tout your diversity plan, but there doesn't seem to be any movement in terms of minority hires. Can you maybe speak to that?
Oh, I'd be happy to speak to that, and I can understand your frustration, because the city of Springfield for a long time has not had a large enough representation in terms of African Americans within the community. But I think that one of the things that we have to look at is where we're at. Now, granted, when I took office, the amount of African Americans within the city workforce was 7.75%. Today, it is 8.75%. 1% may not seem like a large number. But if you look at the number of people who have been hired since I took office, 17.6% of all the hires that have been done are minorities. 15.6% are African Americans. Now, if we had been hiring those types of numbers in past years, we would not be looking at the overall employment numbers that we have today. But to sit here and indicate that we have not made progress is simply misstating the facts.
It is
and
not,
keep
Mayor.
in mind,
It is not, Mayor.
could I finish? I listen to you, you can listen to me. I want you to keep in mind, this includes where we test and hire for police, test and hire for fire, that where we're looking for attorneys, engineers, that these include all the hires that we have made since I've been in office. So I think that we have, in fact, made progress. I think the fact that we are looking at 17.6% minority hires since I've been here is a very, very good number.
Mayor, you throw out percentages. What are the raw numbers? The minority hires versus Caucasian hires. What are the raw numbers? Because, I was in equal employment affirmative action. Percentages are your best method of showing that you're making progress. But the raw numbers, they tell the tale. So I'd like to see some raw numbers in terms of those hires.
We would be happy to provide you with
Excellent,
those numbers.
and I appreciate that. And I have some
But
other
the numbers
questions.
are there.
Okay, and, we talk about diversity, even in terms of those individuals. You say you've hired minorities. I could give you one specific instance where a minority was hired, a minority interviewed for a position, was told that a Caucasian had the position. The Caucasian, for whatever reason, didn't get it. This individual was put in a title that was much lower than her high qualifications. Why wasn't she then given that position? And you may need to discuss this with your human resource director. That individual was not given the position when the Caucasian male decided that he didn't want it or wasn't put in the position. That individual now is in a position that only requires a high school diploma. I don't understand why, everybody talks about, well, minorities aren't qualified. They aren't qualified. This individual was highly qualified. and maybe you're not aware of it, maybe, again, you need to have a conversation with your human resource director. And there are a whole host of things going on in this administration that, taken in their totality, could lead us to litigation similar to what we just paid off last week. Something needs to be done. And again, you can't keep throwing around percentages to try to make the administration look good. We need to do more than what we're doing. And we keep saying police and fire. You need to take police and fire out of the equation, because police and fire are not the only positions that the city hires for.
Well, police and fire are harder because it's done based on testing. So we really don't have a choice in terms of who we are hiring there. And that 17.6% includes those numbers.
What about internally minority supervisors? There are only 8.
8 where?
Let's see. There's 2 African-American females, CWOP general office, commercial office, 1 in CWOP's general office, 1 African-American male who is a supervisor out at the growth facility. There's a African-American male at the public works garage. There's a black male, African-American male, Willis. There's the African-American male human resources, Sandy, and the black female division manager, human resources, but I believe that she has gone, she's retired. So that's another opportunity to hire a minority. And then, of course, the police chief, who is no longer, he's in the position only on paper.
I think we have more supervisors than that that are African Americans in city government.
Well, this was provided to me by your human resource department. And I think if you take a poll of the directors, this is the information that you would come up with. There are none, 0, out at the power plant. Am I wrong, Mr. Harvey?
That is right now, no.
We just need to do better. We need to make an effort.
We need to do better.
And we don't need to make excuses. Alderman THEILEN says, well, we need to look at what other, Alderman THEILEN? Look at what other cities are doing. Maybe we need to look at what other cities are doing with regard to their diversity, their equal employment, and not make excuses about, well, we're afraid that somebody's going to file a reverse discrimination complaint. No, I don't believe any court looking at these figures would uphold anybody saying they're being reverse discriminated against when the numbers just aren't there. Again, I'm asking you just to have your human resource director maybe look at other cities, what they're doing, because other cities have equal employment opportunity officers.
We have, and we have tried to pick up anything we can. And again, while you may discount it, the 17.6% is a very, very good number. And if we had been doing this year in and year out for a long period of time, we wouldn't have the numbers that we have today.
If you could just give me raw numbers instead of percentages.
I believe, and I'm going to shoot off the top of my head, but I think we've hired a total of 235 people approximately since I've been in office.
Okay.
And approximately 17.6% is somewhere in the area, probably about 37.
30.
Okay, and another question I have for you. Is it your policy that employees are not allowed to talk to aldermen?
No.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Any other questions?
Just speaking in generality, not looking at race or gender or anything. I have checked with several directors over some of the hiring processes in the last year. Just some observations of what I've been told has been that we are seeing triple the amount of applicants for jobs, if not quadruple. I believe the last time that Public Works was hiring for 3 positions, they received over 500 applications. And the other thing that, just an observation that I've been informed by the other directors, has been that the problem with the job market right now is that people who are vastly overqualified are trying to get into entry-level positions. They've got people with masters and doctorates applying for jobs that may not even require a college degree. And it's really screwing up the entire job market. I mean, everybody is out there. If a job comes up, everybody's applying for it, it looks like. I mean, it is absolutely crazy. Like I said, I've had people contact me and say, hey, I didn't get called back, or I didn't even get an interview, and then I look into it and there were 517 applicants, and they interviewed 57. You know, that's, 10% or less of the total applicants even managed to get an interview in some of these cases because of just the vast sheer numbers of people who are applying. Is that accurate with what's going on?
I can't speak specifically to the Public Works, example that you gave. I do know that when the gentleman mentioned the firemen and oilers, I believe we had 235 applications for that position.
For one job?
Well, we actually hired 6 people. But the way that was handled was after they did the application, they were given a written test. And I believe that test was either in 3 parts or 4 parts. Do you remember?
Yeah, there's a couple of different tests for different groups.
But the test was divided into parts, and what somebody had to do to qualify, pass the testing, was to get more than 50% in each of the 4 groups. I believe we ended up with 50-some passing the test, and then from there you did interviews and eventually hired the 6 people. Out of those 6 people, there was 1 African American that was hired in that group, I know for a fact, within CWLP. So, again, this is a labor market that, as the Alderman has indicated, is that when there is an application, we get a very large number of people that are applying for those jobs. The labor market out there is very tight. We're also able to pick up some very good people as a result of that.
Yes, I know people that have college degrees and are waiting tables because they can't find anything else right now. It is just an extremely hard job market right now all over.
And I get that, Alderman, but when there's an opportunity to have an individual who is highly qualified be in a position, I don't understand why that individual was not put in that position.
And in that particular instance, I am curious as well from what you've described. But like I said, I don't know the whole story. There'd be a lot more that I'd want to know, and I may follow up with Marissa later.
Well, we can go in the executive section and talk about it next week.
Well, if you give us the name, we'll be happy to look into it.
Any other discussion on this issue?
I think the mayor makes a solid case for efforts being made, that 15% hiring is
17.6%.
Of which 15% is African American?
15.6 is African American.
I think that shows an effort by the administration, and it has to be recognized. And as far as the fear of reverse discrimination, I remember this council approved a reverse discrimination lawsuit just 1 year ago. I think it was in the $50,000 range.
And those circumstances were totally different, sir. Totally different.
As I remember, the circumstances were that under the prior administration, an African-American police officer left the police ranks and then changed his mind and wished to come back. And we allowed him to come back. And when we allowed him to come back, because it was stated it was to promote affirmative action, and when we allowed him to come back, we gave him years of service credit for his pre-termination years, which improved his financial standing both for pay purposes and for pension purposes. And then some white officers came along and said, wait a minute, we left the service for a while, then came back, we want the same treatment. And I believe every member on that side of the horseshoe voted yes, that was reverse discrimination.
And it absolutely was.
Well, now you're interrupting me like you interrupted the mayor.
Pardon?
And you just interrupted me. I'm not finished talking yet. And so reverse discrimination is something we have to be concerned about, and we have to follow the rules and make sure that we avoid making false steps. And I think the 15% shows solid gains, and I think the public out there understands this. I think they read the newspaper and they read the statistics, and we can't pretend that what's real is not real. So that's what some are saying out there.
Are you done?
I'm done now.
The situation that you described is totally different, and you're absolutely right. No, whoever made the decision to treat that African American differently than they treat other white employees made a terrible mistake. Yes, that was reverse discrimination. But when you look at these figures, and the mayor, the human resource director, and you too can throw all the percentages around that you want. But when you hire 200 and some employees and only 30 some are African American, there's an imbalance there. Whether you want to concede it or not, there's an imbalance.
Sam?
Chair, I've got a question for Director Tamaris Collins. And I would say that, I think a good effort has been made, but there certainly is room for improvement. And, I think we can do better, and I'm sure I think the administration is trying. I was going to ask you, the gentleman who was up here, I think Mr. King, said that he didn't get a letter saying that, thanks for your application, we're not going to be able to hire you. What's the policy of your office when somebody applies? Do we routinely send people letters or not if they are not hired or interviewed?
To save money on the budget and to streamline and automate it like most other employers have, we've gone mostly online. We notify and inform our applicants that the majority of communications are via email. In this particular situation, we were made aware for firemen and oilers, for example, that there were several people who didn't receive our emails. So I put 2 staff members and dedicated several hours to contact every applicant by phone. Some we were able to get a hold of and some we were not, because there was a high percentage of non-response to our emails about testing.
You mean you got failure notices when you sent the emails out?
No, we just didn't get any kind of confirmation or response when we were talking and sending information about when the testing dates were going to be and when they were assigned to certain times to test and such as that. That I put 2 staff members on to call all the individuals who did not confirm their test dates and times. And I know of this gentleman, and he was in the groups that were contacted. Now, I'm not quite sure why he didn't hear from our office, but again, the effort was made. I would like to go back and look to see the documentation of what kind of response we may have gotten via the phone contact that we tried.
Okay, could you do that?
Once again, there is more to the story.
Could you do that and let me know? Probably Alderman Simpson would like to know. But the general policy is that when somebody applies for a job with the city and the hiring is over and they're not selected, they're sent an email stating that?
Yes, they are sent an email immediately after they apply acknowledging receipt by the city. Thereafter, they are communicated with via email, whether it be that they're scheduled for an interview or whether it's after the interviewing has occurred and we have filled the position to let them know that we've filled that job.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Any other unfinished business? Thank you. No? Do we have any new business? Please, Director Hobby.
Well, what I want to do is really kind of almost much for the media and for the public. There's been a scam that's going on, and it's happened today again, where people are calling from outside numbers or 800 numbers, acting like they're calling on behalf of CWLP, either as a CWLP employee or a contractor, stating that we're going to cut them, and if they don't make a payment arrangement, and some people have been taken advantage of in that situation. Our process is, if a customer gets behind, they will get a disconnect notice, and they have 10 days to take action. We give a 48-hour courtesy call. We're not going to cut you that day. The call will come 48 hours in advance. It will come from a local number. If a customer has any concerns at all, they're certainly welcome to hang up and call back at 789-2030 and talk to our customer service department. So we will not, customers can pay over the phone, but we're not going to try to solicit that and demand that. Customer can come in the next day and make payment arrangements too. So our courtesy calls come out 48 hours in advance. They're not calling that day, threatening a cut of that day. So we will work with our PIO staff to do a press release, but since this has hit many businesses today, we want to make sure we got it out.
How does somebody know when they're going to get cut?
We send out a letter first, 10 days before any cut.
I mean, in terms of the people that are calling.
These are not businesses, they're random. They are customers that may not have any credit issues at all.
Okay.
But it looks like there's a misunderstanding, or they apply, maybe a bill got missed or a check didn't go through, and they try to intimidate the customer. So they do not have our cut list by any means.
I just was curious if it was inside view. Go ahead.
And are they asking individuals to give their credit card numbers over the phone?
Yes. Yeah, they're trying to solicit payment right there on the spot to avoid being cut. So if we get that, you've got 48 hours. If there's any doubt, hang up and call back. You can show up in person at customer service department and make sure it's then, so you've got time to make a payment. So we will not call you that day threatening to cut. So.
Director, CWLP now does accept payment from customers over the phone. Is that what you said?
We will accept that as a credit card. You can also pay online through different systems. And like I said, you can show up if you didn't receive a disconnect notice and you think you've paid, you can call back to us. You can show up the next day. And like I said, our courtesy calls come out 48 hours in advance of the cut, or basically 2 days before we will be cutting. So anybody telling you that day, and some of those calls are coming acting like it's a contractor here in town, an electrical company that we've hired on our behalf. We hire no contractors to perform cuts or calls.
Yeah, we wouldn't have approved it if you tried.
Yeah.
All right, Treasurer Langfield.
If someone used their credit card, what they should do is call their credit card company, or when they see their statement, they can dispute that charge. Now, if they use their debit card, that falls under different parameters, but if it's a credit card charge, they should dispute it. And as well as the debit card, they should call their bank immediately and try to have those charges reversed.
Yeah, and I know some customers are filing police reports too and trying to find out what they can, but yeah, the customer needs to take, and that's a good point.
Okay. Treasurer. All right. Before we lose any more, Alderman, are there any citizens who request to address the committee tonight? Please step forward, state your name and your address.
Michael Higgins, 1808 Dial Court. I'm here to thank Sam for Saturday night participating in the first Springfield Moonlight Ramble. Left downtown at 9 o'clock in the dark and rode through Washington Park and Ward 7, Ward 6, and Sam's ward, and all the way out to Lincoln Park and back to downtown. So it was a test run this year, and sponsored by the Springfield Bike Club and Michael Higgins, the Mullner's Restaurant. And I think next year we're going to expand it to make it a citywide event. So I want to thank Sam for waving to all his constituents in Ward 5.
Well, and I want to thank Mr. Michael Higgins for leading all those bicyclists in a orderly fashion down through the streets of our city.
Oh, Sam wasn't on the bike?
Yeah, I was on the bicycle, yeah, at night, with a light and a helmet.
Any other citizens wish to address the committee? Seeing none, do I have a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Second.
All right, thank you, we're adjourned.